In space, no one can hear you. Repeat the same things over and over again. K-Dog's Movie Review. Alien Romulus is directed by Fede Alvarez and stars Kaylee Spaney and David Johnson. While scavenging the deep ends of a derelict space station, a group of young space colonists come face to face with the most terrifying life form in the universe. Okay, so I should probably give my quick thoughts on the Alien franchise because I think for this review it's going to be pretty important. Starting with the first one, I love it. I own it on 4K Blu-ray. I watch it at least once a year. It's a great sci-fi horror, a very well-contained story where you sympathize and actually care about all the characters. You understand why they're doing what they're doing. 10 out of 10 film. Aliens, I didn't really watch till later in life. Another great installment in the franchise. Took more of an action approach to it instead of horror, but nonetheless, really good. Love the stuff with the Queen at the end. And then I haven't really seen any of the others except for a bit of Prometheus here and there. I've seen the synopses and reviews on YouTube of all of them, but I've heard that they're kind of not great or even trashy, so I have pretty much just avoided watching them. However, from what I did watch in Prometheus, I enjoyed because it was different. It tried to take a different approach than being the same exact thing that we've seen in previous Alien movies. So going into this movie, I was very excited because with the exception of watching the original every year, it had been a long time since I've seen a fresh Alien movie. I'm not burnt out on Alien movies like I am with, maybe MCU or Star Wars stuff. I'm not someone who has sat here year after year and reviewed every single movie in the franchise. I think that can get pretty laborious, and if you were to see the same exact thing at this point, you could find it really tiring. So having said that, I was super excited to see this. And I was excited that Fede Alvarez was doing it because similar to this franchise, he did the Evil Dead remake in 2013, I believe it was, and that I really loved. I really enjoyed it. The only real issue with it was that it kind of was the same exact movie, but with a fresh taste, and a lot more blood. So anyway, with the track record of this franchise, I wasn't expecting much, but I was very excited to see it. And so I sat my ass down in the theater and watched this. And I gotta say, this is tough because, as I said earlier, if you are looking for something that really enhances this franchise with fresh ideas and a new take on something, a new exciting story, not really going to get this here. This movie is sort of like all of the movies crammed into one. Having said that, it's done really fucking well. I don't care. I loved it. I'll start by saying this. This is a beautiful movie. I am so glad that I got to see this on the big screen. From the very beginning, we are hit with these incredible images of space. So many different scenes in this movie I could imagine as a desktop background or, printed on a canvas or something. This movie is so beautiful. The cinematography here is great. The planet that they start on is wonderful, and the scenes within the ship are so great. They harken back to a lot of the first movie, these slow-moving shots as we make our way through this spaceship. That's not a spoiler. It's an Alien movie. Of course there's a spaceship. There are wonderful transitions as we go to these huge, expansive areas of space to these very deep and claustrophobic settings. And the production value here is top fucking notch. The set design is incredible. There are so many great set pieces in this movie. I don't know what the fuck the budget was for this, but you can tell that they spent every last penny on the set design, the use of practical effects. There's some, questionable, shitty CG, which I'll get into later, probably in spoilers, but there is a lot of practical effects here that I have to praise. It looked really good, and as an Alien movie, when it gets gross and unsettling, it really shines with the use of practical effects and the way in which the camera zooms in and really gets intimate with the just overall grossness of everything, especially with the integration of alien technology. What I mean by that is technology that was used from some of the earlier movies, those CRTVs and actual buttons on spaceships. Not everything is just a big CG screen. They actually have a joystick and levers and buttons that they need to press in order to make gadgets work. And that really connects with the fantastic sound design here, the pushing of these physical buttons, interacting with this retro futuristic technology, the screens turning on, and it all feels so lived in and real. Again, no spoilers, but I love how intimate and gross and disgusting this movie got at points. The sound design is top fucking notch. As always on this channel, I will always praise a movie's confidence to have no sound during a scene, especially during space scenes. The lack of sound, especially in space, is very noticeable here and integrates so well with what's happening on screen. The score here is pretty good too. I will say there are moments where it gets a little too bombastic, and I'm more of a horror guy. I kind of wish it was a little more subtle at times, but pretty well done. I'd say it works more so well during the action sequences than it does the horror ones, but still it's really well done. I think because I love the sound design so much, I would have preferred viewing certain scenes with that bombastic music with just the sounds, because I think it could have been a lot more effective. And the acting here, particularly from David Johnson, who plays the cyborg in this movie, is really fucking good. He nails this role from the very beginning. Just the physicality of his character, the way in which he moves, he speaks, and the tiny subtle things he does with his face is just so well executed. I loved this actor. I can't wait to see more of what they do in the future. Definitely look out for that guy because he is great in this role. Later in the film, when, ultimately shit hits the fan, he just does such a good job. Kaylee Spaney also crushes her role. The relationship that she has with this android is great. It was wonderful to learn more about it and explore it as the movie went on. The rest of the actors, I think they did a pretty good job. I wouldn't say anybody was particularly bad, but being an alien movie, being introduced to all of these different young characters, you kind of know what's going to happen to everyone. Probably going to die. So we don't really learn too much about them. There's sort of just one character trait kind of people, but it was serviceable. Nobody stood out as really bad, which is a good thing for your alien fodder. So the original Alien started out being more of a horror, and then the sequel was more of an action movie. And every single Alien movie after that was sort of a combination of both. So with this one, it's kind of similar. There are horrific moments, which are super effective, and there are action scenes, which are pretty damn effective as well. It does a great job balancing the best of both worlds, which ultimately leads me to the potential negative for this movie for a good amount of people, and that is the overall story. What actually happens in the movie. We start out pretty damn well. We start out unlike a lot of other Alien movies in the franchise. It feels very fresh and new, but once we actually get on the ship and things start happening, it kind of just becomes almost like a reboot of every single movie in the franchise. Which, hell, if you are obsessed with this franchise, you love every single part of it, and you don't mind seeing the same exact thing again, that's fucking great. You're going to love this movie. If you're someone like me who really, besides like YouTube reviews and stuff, hasn't seen every single movie, you're also going to love this movie, because despite the fact that it is doing the same exact thing, whether you call it rebooting or whatever, it's done really, really well. Again, everything that is presented in this movie, with the exception of some CGI, which again, I'll get into in spoilers, everything is really well done. However, if you're a fan of this franchise that wants something new, wants exciting ideas similar to Prometheus at the time. Unfortunately, you're not going to get that here. There are a few new things that are, again, presented really fucking well. They work, in my opinion, really well for this movie. They're horrific, they're fun, they're exciting, all the above. It's really great. But there are just a few things that do that. As a whole, for the franchise, we're not really doing anything new here. And so if this was a franchise that I was more in tune with, say, for example, a Star Wars or something, this would be like seeing Force Awakens again rebooted. I'm over it. I'm tired. I need something new. I need something exciting. Those first 6 or whatever alien movies already exist. We don't need to see the same exact thing with even the same exact dialogue thrown into it. So I can totally understand that criticism that I've been seeing online. But me personally, I'm not used to it all. I'm not burnt out yet. And so the way in which everything was presented was top fucking notch. And for that, I had a great time, and I have to praise it. Now, if in 3 years or whatever, they do the same exact thing again, then I'd be like, okay, it's time for new ideas. But for now, me personally, I loved it. Now, the main 2 negatives I have for this movie really have to do with the writing and the story. First, it's not necessarily the motivation for why the characters have to get to the spaceship. Again, it's an alien movie. That's not a spoiler. It's more so how they're able to do it. I'll get more into that during the spoiler section, but I just couldn't wrap my head around that, and it sort of was just lingering there throughout the whole runtime. The second thing was the pacing of all the horror action sequences. The beginning third of this movie, I guess the first act you'd call it, is really well done and is really well paced. You understand our characters, the motivations, the lore behind the place where they are, and everything is set up really well. But once those horror action scenes start happening, it felt like, once again, we have to shove in every single thing from every single alien movie. And so that the pacing of these scenes feel very rushed. We got to include this scene. Oh, you have to include this scene. Okay, now you got to include this scene. And it felt like the longer that the movie got, the less unique it got, to the point where you could kind of predict what they were going to do based on other movies in the franchise. The way in which these scenes play out is really awesome to watch on the big screen. But just the speed at which things would happen, it just sort of became, okay, now we're watching this scene from an Alien franchise. Okay, now we're watching this scene from the Alien franchise. And it just sort of, it felt very rushed in that sense. It felt like the story lost its focus. Okay, spoiler section, you've been warned. Okay, so our main characters are on this planet that's owned by the Wayland Industries. It's basically a mining planet, and they're all forced to mine on there for X number of hours until they can get these certain papers that allow them to leave the planet. This planet never has any sunshine and is just abysmal, and everyone dies of cancer from the mining. It's terrible. So our main characters basically discover this uninhabited ship orbiting their current planet. Apparently, this spaceship has access to the cryosleep pods, which will allow them to get from their desolate planet all the way to the planet with sunshine. Haven, let's call it. So what threw me off wasn't the motivation behind why they wanted to go there, but was how nobody else on the planet owned by Wayland Industries had either seen or gone up to that unoccupied space station. It's some sort of scientific laboratory space station thing. It's an alien device, basically. It's a big ship where there are aliens on it. I just don't understand how the Wayland Industries, did nobody look up and see this? Just our main characters? Because we learn that there are a lot of important things on that ship. The black goo from Prometheus exists on that ship. There's tons of research data from that ship just up there floating. And our, teenage, early 20s, whatever year old characters are just able to go up there and explore it on their own without being noticed or tracked in any way. Unless there was a line of dialogue I missed about it, explaining it, that was the only thing that kind of took me out of it. Why were they the only ones who were able to go up there? I understand that one of the characters' uncles had a spaceship to get them up there, but it seems like if that was possible, why didn't Wayland Industries go up there? Why didn't anybody else? Yell at me in the comments if I missed the reasoning behind that. The other negative I had with the pacing of it all, it just felt like once the face huggers attacked one of our characters and inserted in, an alien into them, it felt like that whole sequence, the chest bursting, and then the alien basically metamorphosizing in this cocoon, which was fucking badass, by the way. That thing looked awesome. It was disgusting. It was gross. It was really cool to watch, and it was such an epic scene. That's when I was sort of talking about the score. They really enhanced the score when the alien was coming out of that egg thing. It was cool, but I kind of wish they kept the music out of it and just kept the gross sounds only. I think that would have made it scarier. It almost felt like, they had to really enhance the score there because, it's alien. It's so epic. Whoa, the alien. We're finally seeing it, man. But anyway, the rate at which this alien metamorphosizes and then comes out, it just felt a little rushed. And then after that, it just felt like we were getting scene after scene of things from other franchises. That last, if you call it a fourth act, I guess, the scene where one of the pregnant girl injects herself with the black goo and then births this fucked up, weird human engineer from Prometheus xenomorph hybrid. It was really fucking cool and it was really fucking scary, but it just felt rushed. It was just like, 5 minutes? I wanted to enjoy that horrific creature more. Maybe spend less time on the xenomorphs, honestly. We've seen enough xenomorphs. They're really cool and it was really well done, but I want to see more of that fucked up creature because that's something new and something exciting. So I can definitely understand a lot of the criticisms of this movie. We're just doing the same thing over and over again by this point in the franchise. First one came out in the 70s, I think, or I think it was late 70s. And, we're in 2024. We want to see really weird, creepy shit, like at the end there. It's unfortunate that thing got blown out into space. But anyway, so the other thing I wanted to touch on in the spoilers, which I alluded to, was the use of CGI. Everything with the practical effects was super well done here. But the inclusion of the android, I forget his name, Rook, the one from the first movie, it just felt so forced. It felt weird. Why do we need a CGI version of him? It just felt like a moment where everyone could say, oh my God, that's the one from the first movie. That's so cool. I get it in the context of the story. They made a bunch of these androids. They all look the same. It's not the one from the original movie, but it's the same actor's face, the same voice and everything. But it just, I don't know, the amount of screen time that he had too, it was a lot. I thought it was just going to be a quick cameo and then they turn him off. But he's kind of an integral part of the story. It was kind of like seeing Grand Moff Tarkin in Rogue One. The CGI just didn't blend well with everything else because everything else was just fucking awesome. 10 out of 10. It was just like, whoa, this is just forced CGI, man. What are you doing? He's trying to nostalgia bait me. You don't need to do that. Everything else is cool enough here. But once again, everything else was so well done. The face hugger scenes were cool. The fact that they raise the temperature in the room because the face huggers detect people based on heat signatures, similar to like ball pythons or something. They raise the temperature of the room to try and sneak past him. I thought that was a really cool idea. Scene where our character turns off the gravity in the ship so that she can actually shoot the xenomorphs and so that the acid doesn't drip down and cause holes to rip in the ship. I thought that was really cool. Again, the birthing of the xenomorph in the cocoon, the metamorphosis of it, it was so fucking disgusting and awesome. The birth of the xenomorph human hybrid was it was disgusting. It was fucking awesome. It was really cool and unique and terrifying at the same time. I loved the more unique ideas in this. Even though some of those ideas are based on previous movies, please let me know what you guys thought of this movie in the comments below. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Are you kind of tired of the same alien formula by this point? Let me know. Till next time.